And now you can start, Fred.
Okay, let me get this off my screen here. Recording. Well, first off, Jason, thanks for hosting this session of the Club of Remy. And my only claim to fame on this is that I believe we both went to the same doctoral program at George Washington University. That is, Jason and myself. And we both had some exposure to systems thinking and system science as part of that doctoral program. And that's probably why we even ran into each other, because of Stuart Umpleby's involvement. He's a Marinus professor at GW and is now, I guess, still active, but not as much as he was before he retired. So all I want to do on this topic for the beginning anyway, and the topic, as I understand it, is beginning an exploration of the intersection of UFOs, ETs, and UAPs. And just to define, UFO, I think, is generally regarded as unidentified flying objects. ET is extraterrestrial, but of course, there's all sorts of different ways of coming at that. And some talk about terrestrials and infraterrestrials, underground, etc. And then this UAP that Jason mentioned is a term that's being used by the U.S. Department of Defense these days, which I guess is less controversial, but unidentified aerial phenomena. That's kind of where they've landed. So there's a long history here. It actually didn't start just with Roswell in 1947, but I want to focus from 1947 to the present. There's a deep history of hundreds or thousands of years, or perhaps even longer, that some people believe where the Earth had some interaction with extraterrestrials. But just to try to narrow the focus to slightly less unrealistic is the focus from Roswell to the present. So all I really wanted to do here is two different things. One is to put forward a list of 12 questions that I think I've extracted from the last 70 years, if you wish. And I wasn't present at all of that, but the last 20 years, I've been exposed to the last 70 years pretty extensively, reasonably extensively. And so I'd like to, because those are the questions ultimately, or some variation, that humanity is going to have to work towards coming up with some kind of answers on. And there are, you all may have other questions or modifications, that's fine. The other thing, if time permits, but it's less important, is major sources of information on this topic. There actually are many sources accumulated over the last 70 years or so, and I can run down some of those time permitting. And so that's really the main deal. It is not my intent to try to, at least for me, to reach any kind of overall, specific drill down answers to these questions or any kind of conclusions. People have been working on this for decades, many people, and they're still struggling. So I don't hold out the illusion that it all can be solved in 1 or 2 hours. So that's kind of my plan. So I don't want to just be talking too much. So if it's okay with everybody, did you want to welcome anybody else on here before?
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
Please go on.
Hi, Fred, since you asked, I want to say hello. We have exchanged emails. I'm Jamie Hendricks.
Oh, Jamie.
Whether you want to
Jamie, I like your library. Mine is less well organized, so that tells you something. But anyways, that's terrific, Jamie. Good to see you.
All right, take care.
Okay, so I'm going to just kind of begin this first segment, which is this list of 12 questions to try to frame up this topic area, UFO, ETs, and UAPs, which has received a relative kind of uptick in media coverage in the last year. But that's not the first one. It's happened every few years. There's an uptick in media coverage on this topic, and then it settles down, not much happens. So here's my 12. These are just food for thought, and I might be able to just send these out to the larger group as an email later on. Number 1, is also suitable for late night television. Number 1, have ETs visited Earth since Roswell in 1947, the infamous Roswell incident? That's number 1. Number 2, has I'm going to say the US government in a lot of cases here, but when I say that, I really mean and or other governments, because it's not just the US that's involved in this arena. But has the US government met with extraterrestrials? That's like since Roswell. There's allegations that there was a crashed craft and some alien, if you wish, or ET bodies were recovered in that crash, but that's not really a meeting. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, has the US government, and again, it could be other governments, collaborated or partnered with extraterrestrials? 4, are there, and I'm going to put good and bad here in quotation marks, but are there good and bad ETs? Number 5, question number 5. Who, or some people would say what is responsible for reported, and there's hundreds or thousands of these really, of ET, tens of thousands, ET sightings, abductions, and other anomalies like crop circles, animal mutilations. There's just a whole raft of things in here, but who is responsible, or how would you break down the responsibility for all of these things that have been reported, many of which are hard evidence and some of them not so hard? Abductions are more difficult, but there's a lot of reports. But obviously crop circles you can take a picture of. Number 6, has the US government faked ETs and ET activities to a significant extent? That is parenthetically something that was brought up in this Dr. Sala webinar last Saturday that Jason and I attended that webinar. I don't think any of the rest of you did. And I also want to say that I attended Steve Greer, another well-known ufologist, had a major deal that I didn't know about, but I just found out about it this weekend. And it is also, it's his opinion that a lot of this stuff has been faked by Black Ops. But that's number 6. And I think it's important to, investigate that. Number 7 out of 12, does the US government and or other governments have a secret space program or programs? This is a really important one that has emerged with a higher profile in recent years, because in part because of people who claim, whistleblowers and others who claim they were in such programs. And that question came up definitely with Dr. Sala and a variety of other UFO researchers have been focusing on that more recently. Okay, number 8. If yes, this is the question about secret space program. What we mean is something beneath NASA is mostly a cover program in the United States for military and even deeper, highly classified space programs. That's what they're talking about there. And that those programs may have advanced far faster and far beyond what NASA has been doing, or for that matter, what SpaceX is doing right now. Okay, so that's really an important question. If yes, if meaning there is one or more secret space programs, has the secret space program, do they have now developed operational, advanced energy propulsion, communication, and health technologies and systems that could help address earthly issues. This is a real important one too, because it's kind of like where's the rubber hit the road here, and what's kind of the bottom line? Why should we care about all of this? There are cosmic and spiritual reasons to care about all this, but I'm kind of not focusing on that in this particular list of questions. There's another few questions that could go into that area. But so 8 is, do we have far more advanced technologies than have been publicly disclosed, developed with taxpayer and other money, but through very covert and very classified means? Okay, that's number 8. And then we have actually 3 more that are if yes. So one of the key breakpoints here is, of course, the first breakpoint is, are there ETs at all? If you don't get past that, a number of the other questions fall by the wayside. But then if you get past that, then there's a question about a secret space program, and that's a key one. So the first thing is the technologies, but number 9, if yes, does the secret space program have covert relationships with a covert military industrial complex and bases on, on the moon, Mars, and perhaps elsewhere? That is the scenario that's out there. That's a tough one because it would be highly classified. The presumption is that if the U.S. military and intel folks were doing something, they're going to have to involve contractors. They aren't going to be able to do it just themselves. So other people would need to be involved, still on a highly classified basis. And then you have the question about bases already existing on, at least in our solar system or in the inner solar system. Okay, that's 9. Number 10. And this is a reach, but nonetheless, if yes, has the secret space program, does it have the technology to do intergalactic travel? Obviously, to the moon or Mars is solar system travel, and that's much closer, but intergalactic is a whole nother challenge. And obviously, Dr. Sala, Dr. Greer, and numerous others have the opinion that if there is a secret space program, which they believe there is, that there's a good shot that they figured out how to do that with work starting in the 1950s. Okay. Then we're at question 11.
11, yeah.
Okay, I'm right on. We got 2 more, and you see, I knew it takes time even to go through these questions. Okay, so question 11 that I have here, have positive ETs intervened in the solar star system, that means our solar system, to help reduce or eliminate the harmful activities of negative ETs and their human associates? This goes to a central theme in Dr. Sala's, not just that webinar on Saturday, but he has those things every couple of months, and he's written several books, and that is a key aspect of his recent work, that there has been some sort of a struggle for quite a while, perhaps far earlier than Roswell, but between ETs that are positive in a sense they're trying to enhance Earth's development, and others who are not positive and are trying to play games here or running a control operation, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so the last one of these 12 is, if yes, that's assuming there's something to disclose, is the U.S. government in the process, and perhaps with other governments, in the process of disclosure about all this? And is there some kind of an actual plan or timetable for substantial disclosure? Disclosure has been a key in ufology for at least all the time I've paid attention, but it was already going up and running, you know, by 20 years ago. But there's been a lot of false promises, you want to say, or promises made or projections made that didn't really come true. So it is a perspective within which to look at the current information. So that concludes my overview of these 12 key questions. That's a lot of territory. I don't know, do we want to give time for anybody to have any comments or questions to that? Or do you have any comments, Jason? Or do
you have any answers for these 12 questions yourself, even opinions?
You want me to give my answers right now?
because you have 12 questions. I only have
okay.
3.
I'm going to give you my best speculation. Will you take that? It's not really an answer, and it is a speculation. If you're willing to go that way, it's up to you what you want to do with the time here. But I've tried to frame it in those 12, and I'm happy to go through these and just give you my best guesstimate or something.
Jamie raised the hand. Jamie.
Yeah. Oh, but first, if maybe other people that are on the call want to have some comments.
Yes. I'm kind of here because I think this is a great exercise in grasping the current state of the philosophy of science. Just to kind of show where the weaknesses are and where the strengths are. So I'm listening as your 12 questions. So your answers are going to be like 12 hypotheses. The answers are in the form of hypotheses as far as I'm concerned. And then the next question is, how can we operationalize them? And is the philosophy of science actually helpful to operationalize them or not? So that was just a comment I wanted to inject.
Sure.
In the discussion.
Well, thank you. Any other feedback at this point?
Just curious to get your answer or your hypothesis.
Well, I think that, you know, it would be a wonderful world if these actually could be converted or modified, or some set of hypotheses, and it treated in a scientific discovery and you know, framework like you're talking, Jamie. I mean, that would be great. It's been difficult. I mean, I'm giving you my impression, and I'm speaking for I guess the ufology community, because so many aspects of this are taboo or classified, or in and of themselves challenge traditional scientific thinking and so forth. It's been difficult. I'm making some statements, but it's like my impression. It's been very difficult to mount a regular scientific approach on this topic since Roswell. Because of all of the intersections and interferences that there are. And even from an academic point of view, it's been difficult. And Dr. Sala himself was at American University. He has his PhD in political science from one of the Australian universities, and he was at AU here in DC. And he feels his career, so he came in just poli-sci, international political science, but somewhere along the line there. But before he was tenure track, he got interested in the UFO ET thing. And he feels, as he maybe alluded to on Saturday, but he's said it in great detail. I mean, basically, they said, you know, this is not good for your career, your academic career. It's not a topic, you know, we're not going to be offering courses in that or whatever. And so he left AU and actually went out to Hawaii and, you know, followed his passion. And ever since, probably for 15 years now, he's basically run his own research operation. But that's just one example of many where it's hard. Nonetheless, your point is well taken, Jamie. And it's certainly, I think, maybe that, I mean, you know, as a goal, it would be really tremendously helpful if it ever got to the point where the science community could take this on.
Yeah. If I
Yeah.
may, as just a follow-up, I see a parallel with Velikovsky and also Carl Sagan.
Sagan, Carl Sagan.
Sagan, yeah,
Carl Sagan.
Carl Sagan.
Yes.
Just when he came up with his idea with Lynn Margulis, he had resistance, but the one who had even more resistance is Velikovsky. I forget his first name. Catastrophe theory. It's
Catastrophe theory.
yeah, it's not UFO, but it's kind of
Sure.
in the direction of UFO, and just the hysteria of the science community, that they were told to stop thinking of the Big Bang as the beginning of the universe. So anyway, I'm sympathetic. That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to say.
no, Carl Sagan, I have just, obviously I'm aware of him because he was around, when I was mid-professional or something or other. So, but and I bought a number of books just recently, but he was well aware of how hot this topic is. A very difficult topic, even for people at the top universities, even on the abduction process. There's John Mack, I think, at Harvard, the psychology department. There's been a number of people at top universities. They haven't been fired or their career isn't ended, but they've had to make adjustments. They've had to maneuver around, and Sagan is certainly one of them. How can we reframe this or frame it that isn't too disruptive to established science? And the guy, I forget his name, there's a bunch of people around the Earth history and, forbidden archaeology and that whole area, that it's somewhat more accepted now because they find in the digs, they're finding a lot of artifacts that don't fit the old theories. So it forces adjustments, to the mainstream scientific thinking, but it comes difficult. I was an observer on the dark matter, dark energy thing in astrophysics. And I was at a AAAS meeting, American Association for Advancement of Science. It really took the young astrophysicists. They had to get their tenure, but before they let too much time go by, they were in the forefront, not the older scientists. It was too much for the older scientists to take that, because they were just now saying, well, I guess we've discovered everything that we needed, that there is, right, about the universe. And then the younger scientists, oh, wait a minute, we've been doing the math here based on all the new data. And guess what? We think all we've been focusing on is the 5% of the known universe, because our perceptions were missing. Thus, 70, 80, 85% that's dark energy and dark matter, right? But now that's accepted. That's accepted now. But 10 years ago, no way. Yeah.
Since you bring up the distinction between the young and the old scientists, I want to give a little pushback. Because I think the young scientists, they may not understand certain things that the old scientists do understand. But I'm going to drop that topic for now. But I think the young scientists may be hot-headed and actually push sometimes a paradigm that may be worse than the older scientists. And that is a total separate topic. But I just want to put that on the table. But now I give the word back to you.
Well, Jamie, that's a great point, because I've somewhat specialized in electromagnetics, because I did do my undergraduate in electrical engineering and stuff. And so the thing is, your point about older scientists, there's a lot of great science that was done 100, 150 years ago, that's been lost. Why? Because the math was not sufficient to handle it back then, and everything had to be simplified. So in electrical engineering, Maxwell, his original equations of electromagnetics is 20 equations, 20, and it includes imaginary. Okay, what are we going to do with that? So the math people said, you got me. Well, we got to boil this down. So it got all boiled down to 4 equations. And that's still being taught throughout the United States, the boiled down version. But a lot of the phenomena that people are talking about and the things they are missing are in the 16 equations that aren't in there. So the thing is, how are you going to know about that? Well, the books are there in the Library of Congress, or you can get them from Amazon, but it's not taught in today's electrical engineering programs, even at the top universities.
Okay, Fred, could you email us your 12 questions with your 12 answers, opinions, hypothesis? I mean,
at a later time.
Yeah, later time, not right now. Okay.
Yeah. So okay. So anyway, that's a great dialogue, Matt. I'm happy to go in any number of directions. But so how do you want to proceed with this session?
Yeah, just the homework. I mean, your 12 questions.
Well, I don't know about the answers, but I can certainly send out
your hypothesis or your opinion to each of them.
I'll do the best I can, Jason. I certainly can send the questions out. I can't promise exactly on the responses, but I can frame something or other.
Sure. Okay. Appreciate
a compromise.
Okay.
Not giving me a lot of weasel room.
No, because you have to
proceed.
Because you have to leave in 1 hour. So
no, Jason. I'm just giving you. If you guys, is it standard? You go 2 hours?
Well, it's a custom. There's no standard. Normally, we have each person talk about 20 minutes, and then that's 1 hour. And then we need to have a discussion. And if the topic's interesting, people will drag on longer than 2 hours. But normally we have 2 hours. But 1 hour is fine. So let me try to finish my presentation before you want to leave. How about that?
Okay.
Or you can
I'm willing to compromise at 1.5 hours, and also it depends what the other people want to do here. Do they want additional amount of time on this? But why don't you go ahead.
Mano and Bob, do you have questions for Fred?
No, sorry.
Okay.
No, I don't have an opinion. Too many opinions, which is not to have an opinion.
Okay, let me start this presentation.
Can I just say, I have to leave in 1.5 hours at 1:20, so I would like that you